India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Let's kickstart the show with headlines this evening. First up, Israeli airstrikes target southern Beirut. Israel says that a very strong response to Iran is what it has vowed to undertake. Bangladesh recalls Indian envoy, 5 others as well. Yunus government orders a major diplomatic reshuffle. What happens to the New Delhi-Dhaka relationship, which continues to remain on the edge? Chinese Coast Guard enters the Arctic for the very first time. It holds joint patrol with Russia in the Arctic. Does this mean closer China-Russia relationship as far as naval outreach is concerned? India rejects the US Religious Freedom Report. India says that it's a biased organization with a clear political agenda. US CIRF peddles motivated narrative against India is the official response. Nepal, Bangladesh and India sign a power export agreement. This is a major thrust as far as the power sharing agreement in the neighborhood. All right, the first story on the show that we are discussing is the latest as far as the India-Bangladesh relationship is concerned. Well, the Yunus government has recalled 5 envoys. That includes the envoy to India as well. It's a major diplomatic reshuffle that has been undertaken by the Yunus government. What does it mean as far as the India-Bangladesh relationship? Foreign Ministry ordered these 5 envoys to return to Bangladesh immediately. Some of the other countries where the High Commissioners have been asked to report back to Dhaka include Belgium, then there is Australia, Portugal, India of course, and US as well. So extremely important what happens as far as the India-Bangladesh relationship is concerned. More importantly, there's a word coming in from Bangladesh that the ongoing projects and the approved deals between India and Bangladesh will go on. So that the ongoing trade relationship, the ongoing economic relationship will not be impacted is a word coming in from Bangladesh. But how does this reshuffle impact what is really a very testing time for the India-Bangladesh relationship is our big focus right now. Okay, let's open this up for our experts this evening. Ayanjit Sen joins us as well as Dr. Asif Iqbal as well. Okay, Dr. Iqbal, let me start with you. How do you read these diplomatic reshuffle that has been undertaken by the Yunus government? How significant do you think it is?
Well, I think the foreign ministry ordering all these envoys to come back are from these countries where the diaspora is very strong. The Bangladeshi diaspora is very strong. And especially in Portugal, I remember that there has been a parliamentary committee as well, which is very strong and which is very, very engaging with the diaspora. And I feel that the ambassadors who are being looked at as, political appointees, though they were not. But since, these forced resignations, they raise a fundamental question. If the country is repeating the same old patterns of appointing loyalists, just as they did in the previous government. And moreover, the vibrant Bangladeshi community, which is integrated in Portugal, Portugal has formed its first 10-member parliamentary group, and there has been a lot of engagements with that particular group. It's the same with India also. There's a huge diaspora here, and UK and Brussels. So there has been very strong, engagements in those countries. And I think this is an indirect evidence that the interim government is very much aware of the roles played by the diaspora. Because these are the professionals from academia, business, engineering, IT, medicine, even cybersecurity. And these non-resident Bangladeshis have formed many associations abroad with Bangladeshis as members. And many of these associations are divided along our national political lines. And choosing the right and the appropriate association to work will be a real challenge for the government. And that's the reason why the embassies and the ambassadors have been, rated to engage.
Dr. Iqbal, okay. I know the point that you're making. You're saying that there's a powerful Bangladeshi diaspora in these countries, and because of that, their relationship with the existing government, how it's changed, and that's the reason why this reshuffle has happened. Okay, this is not a constitutionally elected, a democratically elected government. So to that extent, what normally the power transition happens after a democratic exercise, reshuffles do take place. But as I said, this is an interim government. Ideally, it should pave the way for elections, and some of this diplomatic reshuffle should happen then rather than happening now. Is that how you should read, or is that how one should read, Ayanjit Sen?
Well,
Ayanjit
Sorry,
Sen,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say that definitely, because at the end of the day, there's an interim government in place in Bangladesh. And from that perspective, whatever steps that they're taking, including getting ambassadors back to their countries from different, including India, now that's not something which lawfully, from that perspective, in their constitution, in the Bangladeshi constitution, it's clearly written that such a thing, this kind of appointments or this kind of stuff cannot be carried out by any interim administration, because at the end of the day, the Bangladeshi ambassador to India, Mustafizur Rahman, he had just 3 months left before his scheduled retirement, and suddenly they have been called back. Now, of course, these people have been termed as closer to the former Army League government, and they are going to be replaced by people who are going to push the agenda of the current interim government, and that too takes place at a time when it's a rocky age relationship.
So I'll tell you what this means as far as how I read it here, which is that this may not be an interim government for a couple of months. 5th of August is when Sheikh Hasina fled Dhaka, and after that Yunus government it formed the government in 2 days' time, and it's almost now 2 months. The fact that it's now undertaking a diplomatic reshuffle indicates that they may be in for the long haul. So what happens to the democratic exercise, Dr. Iqbal? Talk to us about that, and then we come back and talk about the India-Dhaka relationship. But first, the fact that this indicates that it may be in for a long haul and it may not be just a couple of months.
Well, what I feel is that, the previous government's romanticization of the Bangladeshis War of Independence, even after 50 years, that was, by keeping the memory of the 1971 war alive, they reminded the nation of the great sacrifices made by their leaders. And I think the current party was identifying itself with the father's legacy. And one of the things is that they wanted to break that up and, wanted to see how, this whole thing, is changed and this whole narrative is changed. And so that, people would understand that new government, even the interim government, has started taking some action. And a possibility of that particular, diplomatic missions influencing the people and the diaspora, because the diaspora is very much disturbed right now.
I'm not asking about diaspora, Dr. Iqbal. I'm asking you about the fact that does the diplomatic reshuffle mean that this government could be in longer than the word interim normally indicates? That's my question.
Well, there is a lot of pressure for them to perform on the elections and to see them that they are democratically held. Maybe this is a kind of an emergency, situation that they have taken over, so that some immediate, urgent measures have been taken over for the, Bangladeshis. That's what I feel. I wouldn't feel that, there is any indication yet about, the elections not happening in time, or they are not abiding by the international regulation.
That is a promising fact. I can turn around and say that there are no indications that suggest that an election is actually taking place. But Ayanjit Sen, how does this impact the India-Bangladesh relationship in the wake of the sense one gets is, as I said, at the cost of repeating, diplomatic reshuffles normally are not the exercise undertaken by a government that is in for a couple of months, maybe even a year. These are exercises undertaken when a proper power transition takes place. How do you now view the New Delhi-Dhaka relationship?
Well, I would just say that, these are clear, significant implications for Dhaka's foreign policy direction, which aligns with its new political agenda. And that's one reason why I would say, the current relations between India and Bangladesh stands at a place where Muhammad Tawheed Hussain, an advisor to the Bangladesh government, said that, both countries should have good working relationship. But at the same time, India is, in a way, just showing restraint. It's not kind of it's beating around the bush, but it has not kind of come up with a clear agenda, because it's watching. At the end of the day, it's not an elected government in Bangladesh. We have to remember this. And by calling back ambassadors, by taking such steps, it can be some steps taken as part of the interim so-called measurement. But that's definitely not going to stay for long, because at the end of the day, from an Indian perspective, they need the trust factor to come back. And therefore, the Bangladeshi authorities should first get to rebuild that trust factor and then foster constructive dialogue. India as they go
Okay,
ahead.
now the next envoy, the next High Commissioner is yet to be appointed, assuming that exercise typically takes a couple of weeks, maybe sometimes it could take a couple of months as well. Then the next High Commissioner is appointed, he presents his credentials, that process takes a bit of time. I want to understand from you, Dr. Iqbal, how do you then view the next 6-12 months as far as Bangladesh is concerned and the Bangladesh-India relationship is concerned in the backdrop of the fact that this may be longer than anticipated?
Absolutely. Normally I would feel that there could be a charge d'affaires who's going to be at the helm of affairs here. And Indian government and our foreign ministry is, qualified enough to work on this particular matter. And moreover, the ambassador who's going to be nominated will be screened and then only approved by our side. So I think that it is going to be a wait and watch attitude, as Mr. Sen rightly says. Because there are a lot of other dynamics that are going to be happening, and the fact that we are going to be having various other engagements. Recently, the UNGA, our Prime Minister did not meet the interim administrator, Mr. Yunus. So there are so many such things that are happening, and I believe that they have to take a call on how and what could be the final outcome of it, and it is going to take quite some time now.
Yes.
Especially with this anti-India's demonstrations and the narratives that are set by their government.
Okay, let's leave it there. There are, as I said, 5 High Commissioners of Bangladesh in separate countries that have now been recalled immediately. And I believe that this sets the path in terms of the longevity of the Yunus government more than what was being anticipated when the interim government came to power, and it is likely to have a bearing on its relationship with New Delhi. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for speaking to me on India Global. I'm going to slip into a very short break, come back and talk more about, well, the latest as far as Lebanon is concerned, and also what really is the big deal as far as the critical mineral partnership that India is all set to sign with US in Piyush Goyal's visit to US. Stay with us.
So you want the confidence to hit that high note. Here's how. Get the Harry's trial set. For just $3.95, you'll get our new trim and razor, shave gel and travel cover. With our new razor, even your 8th shave will be as smooth as your first. Its 5 German-engineered blades are our sharpest yet. Now with your newfound confidence, that high note is there for the taking. Harry's. Feel good, fellas.
Deep in the lush forests of the highest mountain range lives a truly unique species whose 2 favourite things in the whole world are munching on bamboo and playing bingo online at pandabingo.com, because pandabingo.com is bursting with brilliant bingo games, including 75 ball bingo and 90 ball bingo. It's absolute pandemonium. So, how do you get involved, I hear you ask? The answer is pretty black and white. Visit pandabingo.com.
For Monu, every step is agony. But he's forced to carry heavy loads and bricks up narrow, steep flights of stairs, hour after hour, day after day. Life can be cruel and short for hard-working donkeys like Monu. With little food, water, or rest, they must keep going no matter what. Crude harnesses cut into their flesh. Horrific wounds and injuries go untreated. And when they've given all they can, many will simply be abandoned. You could help us treat more sick and injured donkeys. We won't stop until each one has a good life. But we can't do it without you. So please call 0800 035 9305 or text STEP 6 to 78866 and give £2 a month. Your help will be the first step towards a better life for brave donkeys like Monu.
This is an urgent appeal from UNICEF UK. Children in Gaza are running out of food, water and medicine, and we need your help. Families are in danger. The services they rely on have been destroyed, and their lives turned upside down. UNICEF is working non-stop, providing life-saving medical supplies, clean water and fuel to keep services running. But we can't do it without you. To find out how you can help, search UNICEF UK Gaza or text Gaza to 84901. £39 could provide a family with an emergency water and hygiene kit. Whatever you can afford, Your vital gift will help UNICEF keep working with children and families in Gaza to get through this crisis. Search UNICEF UK Gaza online or text Gaza to 84901 and help bring hope for children caught in this devastating conflict. Thank you.
All right, welcome back. You're watching India Global. A quick update for our viewers as far as the latest in Iran-Israel conflict. And it now seems that nearly 2,000 people have been killed in these latest attacks, even as the world remains on the edge, not just West Asia, because there is a real danger that this fight, this conflict may possibly escalate. On your screens are some of those visuals. Some of them are those that took place in the last 48 hours, where West Asia remains on the edge. Israel has struck at the heart of Beirut. Rocket fire from Lebanon to Israel also continues, and Tel Aviv has said that airstrikes in Lebanon will continue, and Israel's fresh strikes have hit southern Lebanon, which is essentially the Hezbollah stronghold. It's actually a state within a state. Israel conducted airstrikes on central Beirut, and IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Forces, have said that they've eliminated the Hamas government chief in Gaza. Travel disruptions continue across West Asia. Iran has resumed flights after a brief suspension. Let's get Ghazali to wrap this all for us. Ghazali, explain to us the why is this so important right now for India, for our viewers watching this on India Global?
See, why it is significant for India, the first reason being that India has a very large diaspora in the Middle East, starting from Iran to Israel, Lebanon. In all these three regions which are under the conflict right now, Indians are residing, and that is why the External Affairs Ministry has also issued advisories for all the three regions. Now, beyond the diaspora connect, India is also heavily dependent for energy and gas and fuel from the Middle Eastern region, though India has diversified its partnership with Russia and other countries, but still, India still relies on Qatar and Kuwait and other major Arab players when it comes to fuel, oil prices, importing oil and fuel and natural gas from those countries. If it escalates, because right now only three countries are involved in this conflict, it is Iran, it is Lebanon and Israel, but if this conflict engages many more players who are yet quiet, but if they somehow are dragged into the conflict, it will start impacting the oil prices. And also, till now, for the last 1 year, India has been walking on a very tight rope when it comes to diplomacy by engaging with Iran as well and with Israel as well. But if the conflict drags further, then yet again there will be a question that what will be India's stand. Though India has been calling for a two-state solution for the Israel-Palestine conflict, but India also enjoys very good rapport with Iran. The same Iran which backs Houthis, who have become a menace in the for the maritime security in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. So India still continues with its non-alignment kind of approach with multilateralism. But if the conflict continues and extends further, then it is a big challenge for India as well.
Okay, thanks much, Mohammad Ghazali, for that update. We're going to keep a very close watch on that. But let's shift our focus on the second key debate or discussion, rather, we're having on India Global, which is the critical minerals pact that's likely to be signed when Piyush Goyal, the Commerce Minister, is set to be in Washington. Now, this deal is significant for a variety of reasons. It could ensure the more robust supply chains. It could ensure that there is greater technological transfer, and most importantly, it would China-proof the supply chain. India has already identified 30 critical minerals in the last 1 year. Remember, every country can choose. Some have chosen as high as 69 as critical minerals. India has identified those 30 where it wants to ensure that its supply lines are not disrupted. The significance of this is exactly what we are focusing on and discussing in conversation with Professor Chintamani Mahapatra joining me on the broadcast. Professor Mahapatra, thank you so much for taking out the time. He's founder chairperson of the Kalinga Institute of Indo-Pak Studies. Sir, now this is an extremely significant pact that India will sign with US. Continuation, of course, of the deal and the broad agreement since last year. But the fact that it will be signed now, what is the significance? What does it pave the way for? Explain to our viewers, sir.
Okay, the significance of this particular visit and signing of the agreement are the following. Number one, it is going to improve the trust factor in Indo-US relationship. Number two, it is very critical and important for India's future economic growth, which is dependent on technology, and large number of emerging technologies are dependent on the critical minerals. Now, out of 30 minerals that have been identified by India as critical, in the top 10, we are 100% dependent on other countries. And there are others where 50%, 90%, 60% dependence is there. So if you really want to become Atmanirbhar, then it is important that we must develop a kind of relationship with other countries so that we can ensure smooth, uninterrupted supply of critical minerals, which are important for our technological development in high-tech electronic system, in
That's a very important
transportation,
point you made,
in
that the
advanced
10
telecommunications.
critical minerals, we are completely dependent for supply, for continuity of supply. And in the wake of any extra factors, our supply chains stand to get completely compromised. Now, talk to us, sir, that after signing this pact, where we'll have a certain visibility on the supply of these critical minerals, how does it change for our industries, whether it's electric vehicles, whether it's several others? Talk to us and explain how those industries stand to get impacted positively.
No, there are three things. India has already joined what is known as the Mineral Supply Partnership with the United States. It is America-led. There are 14 countries. India joined last year. And the entire goal is going to facilitate supply, increase the supply of these critical minerals by sourcing it other than the concentrated areas like, for example, China. China happens to be a dominant supplier of many critical minerals, and now they're
Yes.
playing games. For example, there are two items like antimony. Antimony, they have put restrictions.
They have.
And now there are two other items like cobalt. They have produced so much that other countries are dissuaded from developing their own capability. So this is where these 14 member partner countries are going to leverage each
Right.
other's complementary strength
Right.
and ensure uninterrupted supply. So though there should be resilient
Professor
supply
Mahapatra,
chain.
quickly, what you're saying is extremely important, and this has ramifications for our semiconductor ambitions as well. Explain to us briefly, sir, how much of a push it will be for our semiconductor aspirations.
Will be extremely important. Only recently, during our Prime Minister visit to Wilmington, when he met Joe Biden, the President of the United States, we signed an agreement where semiconductor fabrication plant is going to be established in India, and the chips is going to be sold to the American armed forces, the Allied armed forces, the Indian armed forces. This is going to be a very strong partnership between India and the US, and this is critical because China is playing games. Whenever it wants, it supplies too much. Otherwise, it can put restrictions
Absolutely.
on.
Absolutely. Professor Mahapatra, thank you so much for taking out the time, explaining to us the significance of that pact, which is set to be signed when Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal will be in Washington in the next 1 or 2 days. Completely out of time on that discussion. Let's now quickly take a look at this very important and exclusive conversation that my colleague Vishnu Som had with the Jamaican Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, I must ask you, since we are in a very difficult, challenging sort of situation around the world, you've seen what the situation in West Asia is. There appear to be so many differences right now, and a real worry that that entire war can sort of spiral out of control. Could you share your concerns on this situation?
Jamaica is a strong believer in multilateralism. Particularly as a small island state, we wouldn't be able to survive without a multilateral system that is built upon the pursuit of peace and respecting the sovereign borders of nations, and indeed the fraternity and humanity of living in a world where everyone can be respected.
Prime Minister, India seems to have taken a fairly major role with regard to the other war, which is Russia and Ukraine. Prime Minister Modi has reached out to Moscow, has reached out to Kiev. We are at this stage friends of Tehran, we are friends of Tel Aviv as well, and of course a voice of the global south. Do you believe a country like India can have a potential role in being perhaps a communicator to bring together divergent views?
You've said it. India has taken on, in a very strategic way, but in a very robust way, the voice of the global south. And we saw that in the G20, which India hosted recently, and in its theme, One Earth, One People. I think India, Prime Minister Modi in particular, has played that role. And it is very important that there is a large country with significant resources that can stand in the halls of power and represent the global south. And I think India is well placed to do that and has been doing that.
Prime Minister?